mysterious and spooky. They're all together ooky.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Castle Goring, chatting with Lady C. Hello Georgie, how are you today?
Hello, Leo. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm great, as always, as you can see.
Good, good.
Well, you're looking gorgeous today and you're having very beautiful choker necklace, yeah?
Yes, yes.
Can you tell us more about it?
I certainly can. I was sent this choker by a wonderful lady in Australia. Actually, I think it's Tasmania, which is part of Australia, but not quite. Called Ros Palmer. She knows people who know my children, and she said it had been in her drawer for 18 years unworn, and she wanted me to have it. Isn't that wonderful of her?
Yes, it's very beautiful gift.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Diamonds, emeralds, and pearls. It's just wonderful.
Very beautiful.
I'm gobsmacked by her generosity.
Yes. Lucky you're getting gifts all the time.
Well, let's not get carried away, not all the time. And this is certainly a very special gift to have been given. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, it's very nice. So let's go with our first question. It's regarding you filming a short movie or documentary, I'm not sure, with the Borat.
Oh, yes. Yes. Sasha Baron Cohen.
Yes.
Gosh, I don't remember when it was, but Cynthia, who was then the Duchess of St. Albans, was still alive. The present Duchess of St. Albans is a wonderful person called Jill, but the previous Duchess of St. Albans, Cynthia, was still alive. And Sally Formulo, who was quite a well-known socialite and somebody who was in the entertainment industry. I knew her family. Her uncle Stanley used to own an island in the Bahamas, and I knew him first. Then I met Sally and her parents, her brother, her uncle Leslie used to run Butler and Wilson at the corner of Green Street and Park Lane. So I knew the whole family. And Sally phoned me up and said she had been organized to do something with Cynthia for charity, and that Cynthia was in the hospital, which she had cancer, and we all knew she was not going to make it. And would I fill in for Cynthia? So I said, sure. Well, it turned out to be Borat, Sasha Baron Cohen, who I had never heard of. I'd never seen him on TV. And he came to my house, which in those days was on Bourne Street. And he pretended to be a reporter from, I think it was Albania. And it was a hysterical interview. I didn't see the whole of it. I didn't even know I was taking part in it until ages later when a friend phoned me up and said, do you realize you've been on television with Sasha Baron Cohen? And I said, no. And I've never seen the whole thing, but I understand from people who have, and also Sasha Baron Cohen, when I met him afterwards at something else, he said to me, our interview is one of the most hysterical I've ever done. I've never seen the whole thing, but I've seen a snippet of it. It's on YouTube.
On YouTube, yeah.
Yeah.
Some part, not whole, I think.
No, just bits of it.
Yes, yes.
I mean, he was outrageous, He kept on holding the train of my dress. And
yes, I seen this part.
Yeah, well, that's in the little snippet. But he kept on asking me the most dreadful questions about the Princess of Wales. And of course, I thought he was this hick journalist from Albania who was completely unsophisticated, uneducated, knew nothing. So I treated him very compassionately, which ironically, evidently made it a heck of a lot funnier because I couldn't be drawn on being unkind about the people he was questioning me about. No, to him, I was not nasty to him at all. Which, of course, you shouldn't be nasty to somebody if he's a hick, you know. I mean, he can't help being a hick. People can't help being ignorant if they're genuinely ignorant. They can help being obtuse if they are informed, but they can't help being ignorant if they're ignorant. But that evidently made it hysterical. But I'd love to get a hold of the whole thing because Sacha himself told me that it was one of the funniest he's ever done. So, next question.
What are your thoughts on Archie not having any titles? Also, could he get titles in the future?
Well, I address this in my book. And I think it's a sufficiently weighty subject to refer people to the book. What I will say is it is unprecedented for any member of the royal family who is legitimate to not have a title.
But there is also mispronunciation of his name, if I'm aware of this correctly.
Well, it's not his name that's
Yes.
mispronounced. Oh, yes, actually, you're right. It is his name that's mispronounced as well. Because according to Meghan and Harry, Archie is really named after the ancient Greek word Archie, not Archie, Archie. It's not Archie. And they have then also named their entity, because it's not a charity and it's not a foundation, each of which is a legal entity. So it's not anything like either of those. They have named this rather nebulous entity Archewell. They pronounce it Archewell, except, I mean, I'm dumbfounded that when people have pretensions to being erudite, that they can cock things up quite so gloriously. I mean, you know, don't be pretentious, be down to earth. And if you're going to be pretentious, at least get the basic pronunciation right, for God's sake. I mean, it's just ludicrous. Archie is supposed to be Archie.
Yes.
And in Greek, and even in English, arch followed by a vowel is the CH is pronounced K. If it's followed by a consonant, it is pronounced CH. So you have archangel,
Yes.
but you have archbishop.
Archbishop.
They have Archewell. So not only do they fly in the face of ancient Greek and even modern Greek, but they're also flying in the face of English. But then again, I suppose, you know, maybe Harry and Meghan don't feel they need to be constrained by the ordinary rules that apply to the rest of us. I mean, certainly of the choice of the name and the pronunciation of the name, I would have to say that this is yet another instance of them just making it up as they go along, new set of rules, even now for the English language and the pronunciation of arch. Very peculiar, very peculiar. To wrap it up, for the sake of clarity, arch with a double vowel, the CH is, so in the English language, saying Archie is correct, but saying that it comes from Archie is incorrect. So, yeah, Archie, as it is spelled in English, is pronounced correctly. But Archie, as inspired by Archie, is incorrect.
Okay.
So, I'm just perplexed that, you know, I mean, you talk about wheels within wheels, and nothing can be straightforward, and it's a cocked fingers brigade at tea time. I mean, spare me, just spare me.
Okay, next question is again about the Harry and Meghan. So, well, so do you think Harry will be welcomed back in Britain without Meghan? If so, do you think he would get custody of Archie? As an American, I don't understand the British way of dealing with custody disputes.
The reality is the Hague Convention dictates and determines anything involving children in a dispute in terms of custody. If Harry and Meghan's, or let me rephrase that, if anybody's marital home is in England and they get divorced or separated, the child is required to remain in England until it is 18, save by the consent of the parties concerned. The same applies in America, in France, in any of the tremendous number of countries who are signatories to the Hague Convention.
Yes.
That means that once Meghan moved Harry and the baby to America, if they set up operations in America and there is a separation and or divorce, unless Meghan agrees to the baby coming back to living in England, the baby is trapped in America until it is 18. The Hague Convention trumps everything else.
So do you think that Harry will be welcomed back to Britain without Meghan?
Well, I think it's all very speculative, whether Harry and Meghan would be getting a divorce. I think that's not something that we should be speculating upon. And it's, they are married at the moment, and I think that should be respected. But to answer the question, would Harry be welcomed back to England without Meghan? I think he would be welcomed back to England rather more willingly without Meghan than with Meghan. I think Meghan has antagonized the British people in a way that is quite extraordinary. And I think whether they stay in America, whether they come back to England, or whether he comes back on his own, I think he would have to mend an awful lot of fences. And I do not think that he will ever regain the tremendously popular and affectionate position which he had in the hearts of people in this country. It's very difficult when you've kicked sand in someone's face to then walk past them and expect them to keep their eyes wide open in case you kick sand again. It's the laws of life. It's the consequences of bad behavior.
So the next question is, did you know Prince Charles' friend Kanga?
Yes, I did.
Yes.
But I did not call her Kanga. She was Lady Tryon and I called her Dale. I knew her somewhat, but one of my greatest friends, Lady Mancham, who is the writer Catherine Olsen, Australian, was an old, great friend of Dale's. So, although I met Dale separate from Kate, Kate was one of my great friends, and Dale was one of Kate's great friends. So we effectively knew each other better than we knew each other, let's put it that way. I liked Dale. She was very bright. She was very capable. She made a great success of her life initially. She made quite a success of herself, not only in terms of the royal family and socially, but professionally. She had a very successful dress business. I couldn't stand the dresses. I thought they were ghastly. But she had a very nice boutique in Beecham Place. She shipped all over the world. She made money hand over fist. She was a very capable woman, very bright. And she could be very nice as well. She and her daughter Zoe did something with me when I was doing one or two assignments for You magazine. We did a spread on members of the nobility and Ascot, and Dale and Zoe took part in it. She was a good girl. Then she rather took to drink, I have to say, which was very unfortunate. And Dale got a little bit carried away with herself, and she antagonized the Prince of Wales because she wanted people to believe that she and he were more than just friends when they were only friends. And this caused a little bit of a ruction behind the scenes. Then she ended up in the Priory, I think it was, and hurled herself out of a window and broke her back. So she was thereafter crippled, which was terrible. And she lasted a year or two or three, I don't remember how long now, it's many years ago, but she then died of sepsis. And shall I tell you, I liked Dale. And when she died, I said to Kate, I said, well, God has been merciful, because her life had derailed in the most appalling way. Her family wasn't speaking to her. She was rattling around with all sorts of weird ideas and weird people, and it was very sad, very sad. But she was a nice person. I liked Dale.
So the next question is, did you know Lord and Lady Lucan? And do you know anything about their murder case?
Yes. The Lucan case is one of the huge unsolved murder cases of our lifetime. I knew both Lord and Lady Lucan separately and slightly. I was never friends with either of them, but I ran across both of them socially. I first met John Lucan at the Claremont Club in the early 70s. My boyfriend at the time, who's still a great friend of mine incidentally, and whose wife is a great friend of mine, and whose children are friendly with my children. So it's really nice. And my ex-boyfriend was the backgammon champion of the world, if I remember correctly, when I was going out with him. And we used to go to the Claremont Club from time to time, and he'd play backgammon there sometimes, or just pop in for a drink, or sometimes for lunch or dinner, whatever. And when he was busy playing backgammon or whatever, I would just drift around and people would chat to me and blah, blah, blah. That's how I met John Lucan. He was perfectly pleasant. He was known, ironically enough, as Lucky, because he had no luck whatsoever. He was really somebody that people in the aristocracy thought was a harmless, rather dated figure. He was very much a Bertie Wooster sort of character, but perfectly pleasant. Veronica, who I met separately through Stanley Formulo, funnily enough, because Stanley was a friend of hers. And after I came back to live in England after my divorce, Stanley took me to a party and she was there. That's the very first time I met her. And she was decidedly odd. I knew very slightly and separately her sister Christina, because before I got married, I used to share a flat with two girls, one of whom was a friend of the Shan kids. And I went to one or two of the Shan kids' parties. Christina Shankid was married to Bill Shankid, who was the half-brother of Diana, Princess of Wales' stepfather. So that's the connection. Peter was his half-brother. And through people, you sort of knew what was going on. Let's put it that way. And there was a lot of evidence that either didn't come out or was not particularly focused upon. And the belief amongst everybody that I mixed with was that John Lucan had not killed the nanny, that Veronica had killed the nanny.
Oh.
And the whole thing hinged upon the physical evidence of the injuries done to Sandra Rivet. Because, no, sorry, it didn't. I'm wrong. I mean, I'm going back nearly 50 years. It was the injuries done to Veronica, because Veronica's injuries included tears within her mouth, that she had scratches and something in her mouth. Men don't have long fingernails, women have long fingernails. There's no way John Lucan had long fingernails too. No matter who pushed their hand in Veronica's mouth,
yes,
could not have torn the mouth. And the supposition was that Sandra Rivet, fighting for her life, pushed her hand in Veronica's mouth and tore within her mouth. And the scenario was supposed to be that Veronica discovered that Sandra Rivet had been meeting her husband John, and estranged husband, and she suspected that they were colluding to get the children taken away from her. And what is really interesting about the Lucan case is that Veronica's children stopped speaking to her and went and lived with her sister Christina at the first chance they had. So there was all sorts of stuff going on behind the scenes. My American publishers, Hope Dellon, who was my editor at St. Martin's Press, in 1993, after I had written a book called The Royal Marriages, she said, "You to become the British Dominic Dunne." Dominic Dunne was a very famous writer in America at the time. He's dead now. He was actually a friend of mine as well. And Dominic used to write these romans à clef. You know, he'd write these sort of facts and fiction all intermingled. His very first success was The Two Mrs. Grenvilles, which was on the Woodward murder case. And he did several others. And the book that I was going to write was on the Lucan case, and I was going to say that Veronica had killed the nanny, not her husband. And that, in my opinion, John Lucan had committed suicide because he knew that Veronica had stitched him up so well in terms of Sandra Rivet's death that he would never have got a fair hearing, and people believed her, but nobody who knew them well believed her. But then I never wrote the book because right after we spoke about me writing it, and when I was just about to start it, I discovered my brother was dying. And I couldn't concentrate on writing a book when my brother was dying. He was my older brother. I loved him dearly, and I had to dedicate the rest of his lifetime to keep to doing what I should for him, which I did, and I don't regret it. And I never wrote the book. But yes, I did know the Lucans slightly, and I certainly knew an awful lot about what was supposed to have gone on behind the scenes. But with hindsight, it's most likely just as well that I didn't write the book, because of course the reality is no one knows indisputably who killed Sandra Rivet. It might well have been Veronica, but it might also have been John Lucan. The fact of the matter is, nobody really knows. And so I suppose with hindsight, it's a good thing that I didn't write the book.
Very intriguing story. Yes. But you wrote the Empress Bianca.
I wrote Empress Bianca, yes. But that's not about the Lucans.
Okay.
That's not about the Lucans. That's about someone else, another woman who murdered 2 men.
Oh.
But I'm not going to go into that now.
Okay.
But yes, that actually Dominic Dunn, funnily enough, wrote 3 Vanity Fair columns on that book.
Oh,
yes.
That's good.
I mean, he also wrote many columns on other matters as well, but he wrote 3. It was quite the cause célèbre in 2005. I think it was 2005. Yeah.
Great. So we go to next question, okay?
Yes.
So the next question is, what are your thoughts on Christina Oxenberg's book, Dynasty?
I'm sure most of our viewers will have no idea who Christina Oxenberg is, so I think we ought to say.
Yes.
Christina Oxenberg's mother is Princess Elizabeth of Yugoslavia, who was very beautiful. I mean, Elizabeth was an old chum of mine in the 70s, and I sort of lost touch with her because she ceased living in England. She now lives in Yugoslavia. Sorry, she now lives in Serbia. And I saw her very briefly year before last when I was in Serbia for something. But we've really lost touch. And I know that Elizabeth and Christina do not get along at all. I won't go into the whys and wherefores because it's none of my business, and I'm not a gossip, believe it or not. I'm not.
Yes.
Even though Lynn Barber said I was the greatest gossip since Peeps.
For the first time. For the first time.
If I'm writing a book, I write what should be in the book.
Yes.
But I'm not going to be gossiping willy-nilly.
Yes.
But so anyway, Christina Oxenberg has been very much in the news recently because she has mentioned stuff about her cousin Prince Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell, and I don't want to get involved with any of that. I found the whole thing rather too unsavory for my taste. Thank you very much. But she wrote a book on her family called Dynasty.
Yes.
And in fact, didn't you and my children go to the launch party?
Yes. It was at the Blake's Hotel in London.
Okay. Would you like to put up a picture of it?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, do.
Yes.
Yeah. And you had some really rather interesting other people there, didn't you?
Yes, there was Boris, Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, then...
They won't know who that is. You need to tell them who that is.
And Boris is the crown prince of Bulgaria.
Yes.
And then there was Misha and Dima.
Yes.
And...
Crown princes of Goring.
Yes. And there was Max Bouchard. He's the Canadian Olympic diver. And then who else?
Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There were lots of smart young people.
Yes.
Yes. Well, it's a very interesting book because the Karađorđevićes, who are the Serbian dynasty,
Yes.
which Elizabeth is a part of, and but I also knew Christina's father, Howard Oxenberg. He was a Jewish manufacturer from New York, and he was absolutely charming and very debonair. So he was a really nice man. And
I also read article that there was article recently that maybe her father is even John Kennedy.
Spare me. You know, I mean, the fact of the matter is everybody had an affair with JFK. My sister-in-law Jeannie had an affair with JFK, and I said, so Jeannie, tell me, what was JFK like in bed? You know what her response was? I blinked. I blinked.
Okay.
That says it all, doesn't it?
Yes.
And but anyway, so I don't believe that for a second. In fact,
Yes.
Christina is a very good combination of both her mother and her father. I don't see anything of JFK, but you know, if people want to decide that, you know, Hermes is the father and Aphrodite the mother, they can do whatever they please. I couldn't care less. But the book Dynasty is interesting, but I rest my case there.
Next question is, did you ever met Diana Mosley? And what are your opinions about the Nazi relations of the Mosleys and of course the Duke and Duchess of Windsor?
Well,
you knew the Duke and Duchess of Windsor.
I knew the Duke and Duchess of Windsor slightly. Yes. I never met Sir Oswald or Lady Mosley.
Okay.
Diana Mosley was one of the Mitford sisters, the celebrated Mitford sisters. She was married to Lord Moyne before he became Lord Moyne, if I remember correctly. I'm sure Jonathan and Desmond Guinness were her sons. I could be wrong, but I'm absolutely sure they were. And both of them I met over the years. And she, well, you know, my great-grandmother was Jewish.
Yes.
And...
So you're Jewish as well?
No, I'm not. I'm a Roman Catholic, but... And in fact, not even under the Nuremberg laws would I have qualified as Jewish. But
where you're blonde.
Well, my great-grandmother was blonde.
Blonde.
So loads of Jews are blonde. But so I have no brief for the Nazis. And in fact, I view Nazism as a great aberration that should never have taken place. And with really crazy laws. I understand why in the 1930s people felt that Hitler, in the early days of German Reconstruction, was somebody who they could hopefully deal with. But the reality is that Hitler made himself beyond the pale with his Nuremberg laws. It therefore meant that no civilized country could, with impunity, deal with him. Uh,
Because
No.
the Britain was willing to get in alliance with Germany.
no,
before
Germany
Nuremberg.
Germany wanted to have an alliance with Britain.
And they were
And
ready to do it.
Germany
before
was,
the
Hitler wanted an alliance with Britain. Joachim von Ribbentrop came over to London specifically to try to organize an alliance between Britain and Germany. And there's a wonderful book that has recently been published by his son Rudolf von Ribbentrop, which goes into the whole thing, and it's a brilliantly considered book. And obviously the man loved his father, and no shame there. But the stumbling block was always the unacceptability of the Nazis' race laws. So aside from the fact that Hitler was regarded as unreliable, even if he had been regarded as reliable, there was no way any civilized country could actually ally itself with him unless he embraced them with a stranglehold, which he did with various countries. So that put spade to the Mosleys. I had no interest in meeting Diana Mosley, even though she's something of a historical figure. I did know the Windsors slightly and liked them, and I have to tell you, I think a lot of nonsense has been written about them being pro-Nazi. They were not pro-Nazi. And I'm not going to go there, but beyond saying that had they been pro-Nazi, Richard Nixon would never have given them a state dinner at the White House. They would not have been allowed, had they been pro-Nazi, to be treated with the respect and reverence that they were well into the 1970s,
Yes.
60s, 1960s, late 60s, early 70s.
Yes.
Sorry.
But there were also is it called Magdeburg files? If you know
I don't
about
want to
them.
go into those.
So the next question follows on the last question. So is, do you think Harry and Meghan will be treated like Edward and Duchess of Windsor amid the aristocratic society?
Oh, without a doubt. Without
Why?
a doubt. I think very few members of the British aristocracy had open arms for either, or open doors for either the Duke or Duchess of Windsor. And I think as in when they were here, they were treated with the respect that was due to their positions as royals, but very much at a distance, always with gloves, let's put it that way. I think if Harry and Meghan come back, and I see very little chance of them being embraced the way they were before.
We see this, I think, a bit at the Commonwealth service at the Westminster Abbey with the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. And I mean, there was like cold reactions from their side.
Yes, but I don't really want to go into all of that now. I think, without
it's in your book as well, yeah.
And also I don't want to be too particular.
Yes.
At this point, but the question also was the aristocracy, because to differentiate,
yes,
the royal family have kept the door open to Harry and Meghan returning, and they've made it absolutely clear that they would like them to return and that they would welcome their return. The question wasn't whether the royal family would greet them or welcome them with open arms or even with superficially open arms. The question was whether the aristocracy, and I'm here to tell you that I know an awful lot of people, and they wouldn't give either of them the time of day. They wouldn't, if they were forced into being in the same room as them, they would be as coldly courteous as it is possible to be. My mother always used to say, and this is how civilized people, I'm sure you will know, behave: kill them with politesse. You know, they would be absolutely killed with politesse. People strongly disapprove of the way they have behaved, and there would be a reckoning. I'm not saying that down the line,
Yes.
things wouldn't ease up if they behaved themselves in a manner that people regarded as acceptable and admirable. But if they did not, they would be cold-shouldered completely. Diana was cold-shouldered completely towards the end of her life. She became increasingly cold-shouldered by the aristocracy and the British establishment, except those elements of it, such as Tony Blair's government, who felt that they could use her. Everybody else cold-shouldered her. You know, once you've shown yourself to be fish, nobody is going to put you in a Baudrillard's cage. And let's leave it at that.
Yes.
You know, people know what you are. And people really do have very long memories. This is not England. This is not America, where everybody cocks it up gloriously. They say, I'm sorry, and they're given a second chance, and even a third chance. You know, this is not America. We are sufficiently worldly wise as to know if it sounds like a duck, if it walks like a dove, if it quacks like a duck, if it sucks like a duck, odds are it's a duck. And we do not think, oh, well, you know, the ventriloquist said it's a Moretto Veneziano. No, it's not a Moretto Veneziano, it's a duck.
Okay. My question also, Lady C, is when you started writing your book, Meghan and Harry, The Real Story, did you expect Meghan's PR to come on quite so fierce to try stopping the book from publication?
Well, first of all, when I started writing the book, it didn't cross my mind that Meghan and Harry's PR people would be doing dirty tactics and briefing against me and trying to get me, trying to denigrate me and all the things that have been going on behind the scenes. It didn't occur to me. I had no knowledge of how the internet worked. I had no knowledge of the dark forces, you know, whatever they call them, the sugars and the sours and the whatever they call it. I don't even know the names of all of these things. As you will know, until we started to do these chats, I was a complete ignoramus on the whole subject. So, and of course, they have been using the internet, and it's been really interesting to discover from various sources, because it's amazing how people actually come to you with information, and then when you check out some of it, it's turned out to be very accurate, or people lead you into caves where you discover treasure. It's been quite a surprise to me to discover that the internet is a hotbed of briefing, anti-briefing, to even discover that there are anti-Meghan websites, or whatever they're called, that have been set up by the Meghan and Harry team to pretend to brief against them while briefing for them. I mean, it's
to make influence.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's, it's double and triple bluff.
Yeah.
I mean, Joseph Goebbels would be actually very, very proud of them. He said, "Whoa, gosh, you've learned a thing or two from me." And I think it's so no, I had absolutely no idea. It didn't occur to me that any of this would happen. It was a completely different world.
Yes, because as I'm aware as well, they try as well to influence and in some way threat some pro.
Oh yes, they've been threatening people as well,
yes.
behind the scenes, and it's unbelievable. I mean, what planet are these people on? Why are they so terrified of a book that's actually truthful and balanced? Whenever
Yes.
there's anything positive to say, I say it.
Yeah.
And there is a lot that's positive to be said, but they're so terrified of the negatives. Well, it's really simple in life. If you don't want to be criticized for bad behavior, stop behaving badly. Improve your conduct. It couldn't be simpler. Just grow up and behave properly. Simple. God, I don't get what's so difficult about it. It's far more difficult to be trying to impose their vision of what they should be on the whole of the world. That everybody's supposed to bow down and worship at their altar, the altar of the wonderful and magnificent and magnanimous and munificous and really just officious. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's delusional. I have to tell you, if we weren't dealing with the Prince and Princess of the United Kingdom, but people who were working in Tesco or Safeway or some such supermarket and pulling antics like this, they would have been really in danger of being locked up for delusional behavior. It's unbelievable.
Yes. Well, but you wrote the book from very neutral point of view.
Yes, I've written it truth.
Yes.
It is neutral.
I don't know why is there a big problem and fuss about it.
Because a guilty conscience knows what it has been up to.
Yes.
And therefore, even if I do not include everything that I know in the book, and I have not included everything,
Yes.
I've held my fire on several things, but they will be aware of the fact that they have secrets and that they have areas of their life that they do not want anybody examining. Now, that's what you call a guilty conscience. So I'm being pilloried behind the scenes, and there are all sorts of antics that their people are resorting to muzzle me. Do I look as if I have on a muzzle? I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, but they will try any possible way just to stop it. Like what?
I don't think so. You see,
Yeah.
I think one of the things we have to be aware of in life is that there are some people. But I will put it like this. I will put it at 3 remove, so to speak. When I was in my 20s, I met somebody called Eli Wallet. Eli Wallet was Bernie Kornfeld's partner in iOS. Bernie and Eli were 2 of the richest men in the world. Bernie actually was a very nice man, and Bernie got tarred with a brush that was not of his own making, but was partly of Eli's making. And Eli conceived this great passion for me. And I had absolutely absolutely no interest whatsoever in Eli. And Eli used to say things like, I've been used to motivating 30,000 people. I'll find a way of motivating you. And I used to say, Eli, forget it. It's just not going to happen. You know, I like you as a friend, but you can forget it. I mean, just, you know, no flicky the light switchy. No, anyway. Yeah. So the point I'm making is no matter how determined you are in life, there's always somebody who's not going to be, you can't maneuver your way around, you can't bend to your will, you can't sort of fox, deceive, throw to the wolves, whatever. I mean, the 5 largest newspaper companies in Great Britain, more or less at the same time, ganged up against me in the mid-90s, early to mid-90s, to try to, for their own reasons, because I was suing them for lies they had told about me. They tried to gang up against me so that I would fold. I didn't fold. I didn't fold. If the 5 largest newspaper companies in the country couldn't crack this nut, do you think that Meghan and Harry and their people are going to make much of a dent with me? I mean, the whole thing's ludicrous. You know, Eli couldn't prevail with charm. Other people have tried it with force. People have tried it with money. You know, I've had 1 or 2 men who thought that if they threw enough money at me, that I would somehow succumb. No means no. As simple as that. If you're not interested, you're not. I'm not somebody that you can influence. You know, the only thing that influences me is the truth. And if you have a pure heart and you're a decent person, I'm influenced. If you're a nasty person and you're negative, I take note. But do you think you're going to work your way around me? Well,
no.
Many have tried. So far, none have succeeded.
No, yes.
Do I think that Harry and Meghan and their people are going to be able to work their magic around me? I don't think so. You know, I don't believe in magic, and I don't believe in magicians pulling rabbits out of hats and Estens having the gall to tell me they're diamond tiaras. I know what a diamond tiara is. I have one.
Well, but I just feel sorry for all those, you know, people who having the websites, blogs, and the channels, and who are now attacked and threatened by them.
Oh, and they've been trying to shut some of them down.
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, we stand with you, and we think that it's not good. And
yes, I think, thank you, Leo. I think we should say that we have utmost compassion for what you're going through, and we think it's a complete disgrace. And as long as you have not been behaving badly, which to the best of my knowledge you have not been, I think it is a disgrace that they're trying to use their muscle. This is what bullies do. And the most odious bully, of course, is the bully that says, I'm a victim, as they're smashing your face. You're their victim, but you're the one who ends up with a smashed up face or a destroyed reputation, or as in the case of some of you, with your websites or whatever they're called, being threatened and then trying to get them taken down and blah, blah, blah. I mean, really nasty, dirty tricks.
Yes.
But you know, I think it should have been apparent from early on that they play rough. In my book, I examine their conduct in terms of the press, and I also examine their objectives with regard to the press. And there is little doubt in my mind that we are dealing with people whose boundary stops where their nose ends.
Yes, yes.
Anyway,
Very
it's
terrible.
all adding to the rich tapestry of life, and those of you who are under attack, I sincerely hope that you prevail, and I hope that they do not succeed in their dirty tricks, and I wish you well, and thank you for those of you who have been supporting me. And I think
Yes.
what we ought to make clear to the world at large is that these people who are being attacked, they are not agents of ours.
No.
We've never met them.
We don't know these people.
We don't know them.
They're not part of your team. Yeah.
They are simply people who have used their
Following the topic.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they
doing
have
their-
used their perceptions and come to certain conclusions.
Yes.
And, you know, and I see nothing that they have done that is odious, you know. I mean, if I see you beating up a child across the road, I would have to be extremely amoral and extremely heartless and extremely self-centered to not cross the road and say, behave and don't harm that child. Well, this is a version of what's happening. They are crossing the road and deciding they're gonna
Threaten.
they're beating up the child
Instead of.
and when
Okay.
you say, when you the public are remonstrating with them and calling them to account for their bad behavior, they are accusing you of untoward behavior. It is a perversion of reality. But you know, there's an old book that was written and published in the 60s. I can't remember by whom, but it was a very famous psychologist. And he said, the name of the book was Games People Play. And one of the oldest, nastiest games in the book is perpetrator as victim. It's a classical psychological ploy. The perpetrator pretends to be the victim.
Yes.
So good luck to all of you, and as long as you have clean hands, clean heart, clean mind, clean thoughts and good intentions, keep up the good work
Yes.
and don't allow anybody to intimidate you.
Yeah, that's right. Good. Well, thank you very much again for today and your answers and your opinions. I think it was again very interesting for everyone to hear what's new.
Well, one is ever hopeful you find it interesting, and do keep the questions coming,
Yes,
because
yes,
I have to
yeah,
tell you, some of
comments.
them are really interesting.
Yes.
Really interesting. And may I also say that we cannot choose every question that we
Yes.
are asked to address. So because there are some that I would love to be able to address, but some are more niche questions, and we're trying to avoid just focusing on the niche. So, okay, but please keep them all coming, including the niche questions, because Leo and I love some of them.
Yes.
And they spark good conversations between us, even if they don't end up being addressed
Yes.
on
we
the
filmed.
program.
Yes. Yes. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leo.
So thank you very much again for following us. Have a nice weekend and successful new week, and see you soon.